let's get started. So first of all, a little bit about Jisc. I've been the CEO since September 2021. What attracted me to Jisc was this statement on the slide here. Education and research improves lives, and technology improves education and research. And Jisc really believes that and really operates in that mode of supporting education with technology to do those really powerful things. So we're well known for certain things. We're well known for the Janet network, for example, which is high speed, secure, and resilient. But we do a massive amount of other things that maybe people don't know about. So we support digital transformation. We support licensing. We act as, I've been trying to think of the right word for this, almost a bridge between the sector and suppliers. So we manage that or support, leverage that demand for higher and further education around resources. We support digital transformation. We work closely with the cloud providers, AWS, etc. We've got deals with them and supporting institutions to make the best use of that technology, as well as things like data analytics, artificial intelligence, advice and guidance, all of those sorts of things. So that's a little bit about Jisc. Okay. When I was preparing for this talk, I did one of those in your head, what if types of thought patterns. So what if, for example, everybody who was involved in learning and teaching felt confident in the use of technology and knew how to use it to best effect to improve education? What if leaders understood the benefits of technology and were able to imagine how useful it could be? What if you were a learner and you didn't think about the boundaries between the digital space, the physical space, the social space, time zones, location? You were able to move seamlessly between those and it all just worked. What if we combined technologies, sort of the mixed reality technologies with AI, and we were hearing about that a little bit earlier, about the use of AI, and just used all of that to improve education? And also, what if all of the things that are there underpinning what I call the back office in universities, all of those systems, processes, were so seamless that you didn't really notice them and they didn't get in the way? They were all automated, simple, engaged with, and you almost didn't think about them. So I've been thinking about these things and thinking about innovation in universities. So the first thing I should say is that there's loads of innovation going on in universities around teaching and learning. So, we've got chatbots out there. There's a number of institutions using AI machine learning. We've got data being used to support the student journey. I'm not just talking in the UK here, I'm talking wider. Lots of people using cloud technologies, all sorts of things, sentiment analysis I heard is being used in some organisations to, you've got a screen, say you were in a room like this or you're on a digital call, classroom, you can use sentiment analysis to see if people are actually understanding what you were saying. So if I scan that across the room now, I might get a big tick that said, yep, she's with us, or it might be 50% of the class understanding. So these sort of technologies are being used, they're coming along, they are there, but they're in pockets. There's only small examples of it. So there's one on the screen here is from Leeds University Dental School, and they've invested a lot in training dentists and training medics. So this here is haptic technology, people using those simulated environments to take your teeth out, I'm glad they're practicing in a virtual environment. I also want them to do it real too. So there's loads and loads of innovation going on, but in pockets. So I was then thinking, so what's stopping us? You know, why is there only pockets of it? There's loads of tech out there, loads of things that we could do better. Okay, so these are my thoughts, few thoughts around what's stopping us. So first of all, I think we've underinvested in digital for years in higher education. We really have. And I tried quite hard to get some data on this to understand, so that we call it the clicks versus bricks, bricks versus clicks piece. You know, how much more money has been put into the physical estate than the digital estate. And the figure I got when people munged this a little bit was about 3 times. Now, I'm not confident in that figure at all. I'm not confident in it because I think the figures around the estate are fairly clear. Around what goes into the digital estate is not. And I think we could be out several times on that. So I can give you one figure for definite, which I got from the Association of University Directors of Estates. So there was 3.5 billion invested into the physical estate in, I think, 1920. I don't know where 3.5 billion is going in higher education. So there's a money bit. The underinvestment means we've got lots of legacy. We've definitely got universities where somebody wrote a script 20 years ago. They were called John. John retired, and nobody knows what to do with that technology. You know, nobody wants to intervene there. There's loads and loads of legacy because we've underinvested. We've also not seen technology as a strategic asset. We really haven't. We've thought about it as getting things to work, but we just haven't thought of the opportunities. And also we've been risk averse. So I think we often think, particularly in universities, there's been a tendency for us to do it ourselves. We're not willing to trust other people. We're also worried about pushing the boat out and failing, things going wrong. And the one that I really am very interested in is this risk aversion piece around cloud, with lots of people saying, well, we need it in our own data center. We shouldn't use cloud because we can do it better. Now, that's just nonsense. I mean, I don't know how much AWS is spending on building their cloud infrastructure, but it's quite a lot of money. And you can absolutely bet that they are doing that really well. So there's that risk aversion piece around what we do or don't do. The other thing is complexity. So I've worked in a number of universities, and the complexity of universities is in many, many layers. The thing I'm thinking about here is how, if you think about teaching and learning specifically, I know in all the universities that I've worked in, every department has done their teaching and learning differently. They've built their own systems, their own processes around that. There's no consistency at all. It's very difficult to automate complexity in that way. And I think the other thing that's never happened is we've never costed the complexity. So people see this as being choice. You can do things in different ways, but choice, complexity, there's a sweet spot in there somewhere, and I think we're well off the sweet spot around the complexity. You can't use tech in really complicated environments to automate it, or you can, but it's then really complicated. And as I've already said, we've got legacy, things are hard to change. Okay, the other thing I think that's holding us back is the people piece. So Jisc do a digital experience insight report. So they've done it for students, but they've also done it for staff. And the thing that's come out of that is that staff just don't feel they're supported in their developing digital skills. You know, we've expected people to take on loads of these things. And the thing that really jumped out at me was that people have had loads of GDPR training, but they've had hardly any training, so that sort of risk piece there, but they've had hardly any training on how to use technology appropriately, how to develop their own skills, how to make their pedagogy better. The other thing that's not happening for staff is reward. So lots of staff would like to develop their digital capabilities, but there's not really a reason for them to do that. There isn't a carrot around some of that. I don't think there's even a stick. There's just a, keep going, what you're doing. There's no real motivation around that. And then the last bit there is leadership. And I talked at the beginning saying, what if leaders really understood the potential of technology, weren't scared of technology. I think I've found quite a few times where people have been embarrassed about their level of technological expertise and therefore thought they can't get involved in this technology piece. So leadership is also something we really need to work on. Okay. I'm being very negative, so I want to just come and say I think there are things that we can do. So, first of all, we need to recognise that digital is a strategic asset in higher education. We need to think about it in a whole different way. We need to put innovation as a core in the student journey. We need to think about digital as the core of the business in a way that we simply don't do at the moment. And we need leaders who will pick that one off, take it on as a challenge. I think I've noticed that universities are looking at the student journey and thinking of how digital can support it across the whole of that piece. So not just thinking about one little bit, but the whole piece. And I really welcome that, and we need to do more of it. But the challenge is really around that mindset. Digital not as a cost, not as a risk, but as an opportunity, and that failure is part of that. We will fail on some of these things, but we need to have a go at taking it on. Jisc, very keen to do work in this area. We're obviously doing things around the network, cloud infrastructure, supporting people, security, etc., but also supporting people in that digital transformation space. So please do talk to us about that. And then before I finish, just a few resources. These slides will be circulated that I've drawn my talk on. Information that Jisc has gathered, things that Jisc has done, and they'll be circulated around. We do some really good stuff. Please do engage with us, users. I say these will come round so you can get the links to them. And then I think I'm about on time for 10 minutes or so of questions, so I will stop there and take any questions. So there's the Slido. There's a question there.
Thanks, Heidi. I promised to ask you a difficult question. Universities aren't very good at change. We're very stuck doing that thing we did that John did 20 years ago. How can we get better at managing change?
So first of all, I think we have to accept that we need to manage change, because I think one of the things that we've often thought is we bring in this digital tool, it'll all be fine. And we've never really understood the problem we're trying to solve. So I think the first thing we have to do is recognise that you need change management. And the other thing is recognise that as we all, some of this, I think, we've known this for years. The tech's only part of it. It's the people that are in part of it. And we still miss that one out time and time again. I also think we're very ambitious with some of the things we want to do. I don't think we understand sometimes how deep the problem is. And we come in and think if we change this, but realise that that is many layers deep. So that complexity piece that I talked about, universities are really complex organisations, and we need to get a better handle on that, and we need to simplify. So the other thing I should say, Nick, is no silver bullets. None of the things that I've seen done well have been things that have happened quickly or easily. They've been built in layers, capabilities been built, attitudes, different processes, etc. So that wasn't too difficult. Okay, there's a question on the thingy. She said, technically. What is your priority for Jisc in the next 1 to 3 years in supporting HEIs in this transformation? Ooh, thank you, Laura, for that question, wherever you are. So, first of all, engaging with institutions at a more senior level. That's one of the things I'm very keen on. And that's all about this leadership piece, as actually making or helping chief operating officers, pro-vice chancellors for teaching and learning, pro-vice chancellors for research, finance directors understand technology, the benefits of technology, the impacts of technology, what they should be investing. So that's really key. I think the other thing is having a better understanding underneath the hood of universities. So I said I wasn't confident in the figures around the investment. We don't know in Jisc. I mean, I've asked, nobody knows some of the things that go on under the hood in universities, and being able to understand a lot of that will help us to intervene in the right way. And also partnering with people, partnering with other organisations. So those are a few things that I'll be focusing on.
A quick one. So obviously the pandemic has, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so the pandemic has forced the digitalization of learning. It's been painful and wonderful in different ways. Now that, knocking on wood, things are going back a little bit more to normal, where's the new world going to land in between where the old world was and what we have seen during the pandemic?
Where do I think? Sorry.
Yeah. Where do you think it's going to land? Where do you think it should?
I mean, I think one of my worries is that over the last 2 years, we've done a great experiment around the use of technology in education, and we haven't put in place the mechanisms to capture some of that learning. So that would be the first things I would say. So, I mean, the talk that was just before this one was around that hybrid approach. I think there is something in that hybrid approach, with face-to-face being a very key and important part of education, but also the availability of learning materials, of interactions online and whatever, key. I also think the other thing I didn't mention in this is assessment's really interesting in this part, and how we do that well at universities using technology, because we have not cracked that one at all. But I also don't have an answer. I don't know. I think my worry is that we just do go back to where it was before. Having said that, Jisc has had an awful lot of people asking how can we support them with digital transformation, whatever that means, because I'm not sure people have different views around that is. So there is an appetite to reap the benefits of what's happened so far, but not a coherent strategy.
Thanks.
Thanks, Heidi. What do you think should be the next steps for leadership teams in universities when it comes to transforming themselves to think more about digital?
Okay. So again, I think there's a little bit around accepting that you don't have the skills. So, you know, if you don't know if you don't realise that you're not thinking in that digital way, it's very difficult. So I think the first thing is to realise that we need leaders to step up into that space. So one of the things I'm quite interested in is having round tables with vice chancellors. So I've started some of these conversations happening with vice chancellors to talk to them, and chief operating officers, to talk to them about what their role is in leading organisations down this digital track. And Jisc is going to help facilitate that with other people involved. And I know AWS did a really interesting programme with senior leaders around what digital was and what their role was in it. So those sorts of things I'm very interested in just raising awareness. So one of the things I would observe is that in universities, CIO very rarely sits at the top table. You know, there is not that understanding of the cruciality of digital across the organisation at all. So yes. It's very noisy, isn't it? I can't hear. Any other questions?
It's not really a question, it's just really, Joe Wilson, City of Glasgow College, It's basically to say you're doing a good job, an okay job on colleges and vocational learning, but keep going. What you've done is great, but I think there's still a wee bit around lifelong learning where you need to tailor some more, maybe a wee nuanced resources so that everybody sees in lots of subjects we do vocational learning. It's not further and higher or college and university. We're doing the same, and there's maybe a wee bit of nuancing that just still needs to do in this space. But what you're doing so far is great.
Thank you.
It's support.
And thank you for the nudge on that, because I think the question here as well around what else, and I think the digital to support lifelong learning is really key. I think it opens up massive opportunities that, again, I think the other thing I've been thinking about is lots of the technology, I've said this before, lots of the technology that we used when the pandemic hit, we already had. We just didn't use it. It wasn't part of the way we functioned. And so I think that again, for something like lifelong learning, let's use what we've got better. Let's think about how we could use it to support. And let's not forget the people piece too. Any more for any more? Oh, somebody at the back there.
Thanks, Heidi. Really interesting talk. I suppose my question is, what do you think the sector, AWS, our, other organisations like us, what could we be doing more for the education sector generally? Is there anything we could be doing?
Well, apart from make it cheaper. You knew I had to say that. So I think again, understanding the problems the sector's trying to solve and making sure that your solutions match within. I mean, the thing I think I've noted throughout my career was people would come and sell me something which they had no understanding of what my problem was. So I think it's much more around understanding what the problem is and helping design the solutions for that, working with. Because again, cliches aside, always what happens in tech is people come with a solution and say, I want, implement this without understanding that the problem is somewhere way over there. And, we should be designing processes, systems in a totally different way to solve the problem. So that's what I would say.